This is Southern Cross News with Rachel Williams.
There's been a development in the disappearance of a Risdon Vale man. Acting on provided information, officers discovered a body on a rural property between Orford and Oatlands. 2 people have been charged in relation to his alleged murder.
Detectives today revealing the latest as they investigate the disappearance of Dwayne Davies. The Risdon Vale man went missing more than a week ago, police say in suspicious circumstances.
An area of interest was identified, and that was examined by forensic officers yesterday, which resulted in a body being located.
The police helicopter was used to help scour a property between Orford and Oatlands, and around 50 officers were on the ground.
The property owner has absolutely no involvement in this, nor was he aware that the body was on his property. He's been fully cooperative with police.
While the body has been exhumed from the site, police say it's yet to be formally identified, a process that will take place along with an autopsy to determine the suspected cause of death.
Formal identification of that body won't be able to be established until tomorrow morning, and that'll be in consultation with the pathologist and the coroner.
Mr Davies' colleagues at a Bridgewater tattoo and piercing shop have paid tribute, saying there are no words to express how we feel about the current circumstances. Not only have we lost our work colleague, but a close mate. Our love goes to Doc's family. Last week, police searched 2 properties, one at Eldersley, the home of Bradley Scott Purkis, who's now charged with murdering Mr Davies. Another at Risdon Vale, the home of Margaret Ann Otto, the victim's wife. She's been charged with accessory after the fact to murder, perverting the course of justice and failing to report a killing. Both have denied the charges and will appear in court again next month. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
A code yellow emergency has been declared at the Royal Hobart Hospital. The Health Department released a statement late today saying the hospital's emergency department is facing a period of high demand. The Director of Clinical Services says the code yellow was called to allow the use of areas normally reserved for other patients. At 2:30 this afternoon, there were 50 patients in the emergency department, while 22 other patients still required admission. Earlier this week, health authorities confirmed they denied a request from staff to call a code yellow, saying the situation could be managed through existing patient flow management protocols. The state government has announced changes to the native forest estate policy, allowing farmers to clear their land for agricultural purposes. It comes as ministers gear up for a week of scrutiny on their portfolios, with budget estimates hearings starting tomorrow.
Announcing changes to the state's native forest estate policy on a week set to put the Resources Minister under the pump.
Today's about growing agriculture here in Tasmania.
It'll allow farmers to clear up to 40 hectares of their land for agriculture. Today's result following a review launched in 2015, with much of the clearing needed for irrigation.
And it will be probably a one-off for a lot of farms that will only clear 10 hectares to put a pivot in, or 20 hectares, but 40 hectares is a good size if you're going to, put a nice irrigation scheme in on the farm.
They must meet the environmental guidelines. This is not possible unless those guidelines are met.
The Greens say it's just another move by the minister to destroy state forests.
Our agricultural sector is reasonably large. Forests on private land are a really important part of our native forest estate here, but also a really important carbon store.
The minister last week reaffirming his commitment to controversial forestry legislation that's been sold as vital to keeping Forestry Tasmania sustainable. Barnett set to be questioned on what happens if that bill fails as part of budget estimates.
I think Tasmanians want to know the background to the decisions the government are making, and I think Tasmanians are really getting quite sick of the secrecy that surrounds the processes of this government.
Labor is keen to scrutinise failings in the health system and a stormed Taswater takeover. The Greens' first priority is funding for survivors of childhood sexual abuse, recommended by the Royal Commission.
We've got the Premier tomorrow and we'll be asking him about the state failing to make an allocation to the redress scheme.
Jacqueline Robson, Southern Cross News.
The involvement of Tasmanians in what's been dubbed the Forgotten War has been remembered. A commemoration taking place at the Boer War Memorial on Hobart's Queen's Domain today.
The Anglo-Boer War of 1899-1902 is Australia's third greatest involvement, with nearly 1,000 Australians actually being killed or dying of disease.
About 850 Tasmanians were involved in the conflict. 41 of those were killed. A heated community meeting has taken place over an approved multi-million-dollar Chinese development on Hobart's eastern shore. The group, known as the Voice of Kangaroo Bay, is continuing to push against the project.
Issues like...
It's the latest show of opposition to the approved Kangaroo Bay development. Today's meeting calling for community feedback on the $50 million hotel and TAFE hospitality school. Residents claim there was insufficient consultation on a building they say encroaches on their public space.
That's what's special about Tasmania. Keep it small, keep it boutique, people will come here. We don't want to be overdeveloped.
A heated exchange as the Clarence Mayor defended his council's consultation process.
Why didn't you do what your public participation policy
because
says?
We were obeying the law of the Tasmanian Parliament.
Oh, that's rubbish. Rubbish.
A consultation period held over the Christmas break.
Everybody that was directly affected by this development application was written to by council.
The size of the development realistically should have had a longer time frame.
Negotiations are now underway into land costings following a contract exchange last week.
The contracts between Shambroid Holdings and Clarence City Council were exchanged and a deposit paid for the land. The land is going to be sold at a price set by the Valuer General.
Today's questionnaire aiming to show council what the community deem appropriate for the space. But with the chance of an appeal unlikely, it's hoped future development gets a full community tick.
There are other areas in this in Kangaroo Bay that are earmarked for development and are offered to the same company.
We've got to start by having these sort of meetings to have an impact on the future of our Kangaroo Bay and Bellerive in general.
Jacqueline Robson, Southern Cross News.
Screen queens and Broadway buffs will soon descend into Hobart for Tas Pride's annual fundraising party. Queen's Ball, the musical, is an opportunity to celebrate Tasmania's LGBTI community and support other Tas Pride initiatives.
What Queen's Ball allows us to do is to raise money for those things, and often a lot of the smaller things that we do are free for people. So, yeah, it's great in that regard. It means we can keep putting on things for the community because of Queen's Ball.
The event gets underway next Sunday at Hotel Soho.
Glenorchy is back in the winner's circle at KG5. Jay Bowden and Aaron Brennan booting 3 goals each in the side's 53-point victory over Hobart City Demons.
Entering the round off a 4-game losing streak, Glenorchy showed no fear. Hungry to turn the tables at their old fortress, KG5, the Pies kept Hobart City Demons to a single point in the opening term. Jay Bowden set the tone early in front of a big home crowd. His best on-ground performance included 3 majors up forward. The visitors evened the gap in the second term. Josh Williamson did the damage in front of the Big Sticks, booting 2 goals for his side. But in the second half, Glenorchy ran rings around the competition, kicking 5 goals to 1. Glenorchy's bigger bodies could not be matched by the young Demons outfit. Rover Zach Webster starred in the middle after returning from a hamstring injury in round 6. The Demons tried to fly but came off second best, Glenorchy running out 53-point winners, the victory putting the Pies inside the top 5. Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
In the NPL, Northern Rangers have beaten crosstown rival Launceston City 2-1. Rangers are now sitting 5th on the table, while City is struggling on the bottom of the ladder with just 1 win after 11 rounds. Meanwhile, South Hobart is celebrating a massive 5-0 win over Clarence United. South Hobart remain in 2nd place, while Clarence are 7th. In the Seaball, the Launceston Tornadoes have salvaged a win over a determined Ballarat last night. A surge in the closing minutes sealed the deal for the Torns, 7 points the final margin. Meanwhile, the Hobart Chargers women's side was defeated by 18 points. In the men's, the Northwest Thunder made it home by 7 points in its clash, while the Chargers never looked back after flying out of the blocks in the opening period.
Two teams vying for top spot, but Hobart Chargers came to play. Lewis Thomas opened the scoring for the home side. By quarter time, Hobart had raced to a 16-point lead. Reliable as ever, Chris Whitehead made his mark with 21 points and 7 rebounds, helping the side extend to 22 points in front during the third period. But sloppy defence resulted in a major turnaround. The visitors came within 2 points in the final minutes. However, the Chargers steadied for an 8-point win to retain top spot on the table. No celebrations in the women's game. Ballarat claimed its first win of the season, courtesy of a 26-point game from Joy Burke. Hobart captain Kath Shear held her head up, sinking 22 points for the game, but it wasn't the team's day. The deficit blew out to 25 points late in the third until it was wound back to 18 at the final whistle. And last night, Richard Dickel's demands for defensive pressure went unanswered early on. Ballarat broke away to a 4-point lead midway through the second period, the Tawns clearly asleep at the wheel. But in a season-best performance, Lauren Nicholson stemmed the flow, providing 21 points and 8 rebounds. The fight from Ballarat came as a surprise to the Tawns, who were expected to win easily against their bottom-placed rival. Only late in the final period could the home crowd feel some sense of relief. With 5 minutes to go, the Tawns hit the lead and held on for a 7-point victory. Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
Good evening. Hobart and Devonport both reached a top of 13 today. It was 14 in Launceston, 12 degrees in Burnie. 16 was the state's high at St Helens and Friendly Beaches. It was 15 at Ouse, 14 at Low Head, Grove and Maria Island, 13 at Strawn, and after a low of -1 overnight, Lyowini made it to 7 degrees. The satellite images show a frontal cloud band nearing Tasmania and southeasterly onshore flow over the east coast of the mainland, producing low cloud. Closer in, mostly low-level cloud extending over the west and north of the state. Tomorrow, the chart shows a broad area of high pressure over southern Australia, while a trough extends over Bass Strait and the northeastern parts of Tasmania. West to northwesterly winds 10 to 20 knots, increasing later in the morning, swells to 1 metre in the north and east, 4 metres in the west and south. And there's a strong wind warning for coastal waters between Southeast Cape and Stanley. A shower or two developing in Hobart tomorrow, 13 degrees, Dover 12, Ouse 13. Launceston 15 with a shower or two, showers for Devonport 14, Scottsdale 13. Showers for Burnie and Stanley, both expecting a top of 14, 12 for Strawn. St Helens, a possible shower 15, Swansea 15, Ross 13. Now let's take a look ahead to Tuesday, a frosty start to the day with showers across the west, south and east, contracting to the east coast and clearing in the afternoon. Wednesday, areas of morning frost and fog with showers developing about the far west in the morning and about the north in the evening. A fine and mostly sunny day elsewhere. And Thursday, morning showers extending throughout the state, then contracting to the west, far south and northeast. Now let's take a look around the country tomorrow. Sunny for Brisbane, 23, a partly cloudy 19 for Sydney, and a shower or two developing in Melbourne with a top of 15. And here's a look at the current conditions around the state. It's a bit cloudy everywhere, 13 in Hobart, 10 degrees in Launceston and 10 degrees in Devonport also. Hope you've got a good night ahead, Rach.
I hope so too. Thank you for that, Britt. That's all your news for now. Thanks so much for joining. Have a great week. I'm Rachel Williams. Good night.